Hello, and welcome to the second lab session, the Common Data Service, part of the App in a Day training. My name is Eric Levine, and I'm the Principal Solutions Architect and the Microsoft Business Applications MVP working in the city of New York. The second hands-on lab will cover Module 2 of the App in a Day training, the Common Data Service. If you haven't completed the introduction lab, which goes over the prerequisites, and the first lab, Power Apps, Canvas Apps, please stop now and go back to this lab to make sure that you're ready to go. In the second lab, we'll go over provisioning a CDS database, standard and custom entities, entity fields and option sets, calculated fields, and saving data to CDS from our Canvas app. We'll also be using the Office 365 connector to get the manager's info. Now, let's go ahead and start with the lab. We're going to start off where we finished the last lab. If you look at my interface, on the left-hand side, I have the Data tab. If I expand the Data tab, I'll see things such as entities, options, connections, and more. If I click on entities, I'll see the list of all of the entities that make up the Common Data Service. At times, it is possible, if we've not previously created the database or the CDS environment, such as in this case, if I click on entities, it will trigger me or ask me to create a database. Since we've already created a database, we can go ahead and go back to our application. When we click on a particular entity, or when we look at the type of entity, the system will show us any standard entities that we have, as well as any managed entities or custom entities that our application is using. I'll move back to the default view, which contains only the standard entities of the system. If we click on a particular entity, it will show us all of the objects that make up that particular entity, such as the fields, the relationships, business rules, views, forms, dashboards, charts, and keys, and we'll go over some of them in detail. When we look at that list of fields, there's a column called Data Type that specifies the type of the data of that particular field. There are approximately 10 or 15 different fields that I can create for each. Click on a field name. It will show me the name of the field or the display name, the actual name that is given by the system, and any advanced options such as the length of the field and the description. Based on the type of the field, I might see different values. For example, for an option set, I'll see the same name and data type, but also see whether it's a local option set or a global option set, and have the ability to make changes or to add values to that particular option set. Relationships allows us to manage relationships between entities. There are 3 different types of relationships: one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. They define the behavior that happens when actions occur on a primary record in a one-to-many relationship. For example, if a parent record is deleted, you can configure the relationship behavior so that all child records are deleted as well, or simply you can set it to remove the references. Business rules allows you to build some sort of flowchart to define conditions and actions for your entity. An example would be if a particular field value changes, what action you want to perform. Views define the record that show in the app. If I select the Active Accounts view, for example, I will see the fields that are displayed in the view. I can add additional fields to the view or remove the fields that I don't need. I can also set the sorting order and any particular filtering that I want to set. Forms provide the user interface that users will interact with their data. When you work on a form, you work on a single row of data. If I look at the account form, I'll see this is the way my form will look when I try to modify the data in it. In this particular case, on my account entity, I'll see some basic information such as the account name, phone, fax, website, and the address fields for that form. There are different types of forms, such as the main form, which we just demonstrated. There are also quick create and quick view forms, as well as card forms that allows us to display subsets of data from related entities or from the same entity in a different format. Dashboards helps us bring our views, charts, and web resource together all in one place. We use charts to display data or high-level data in the graphical ways. Keys allows us to view lookup for an entity. They can contain multiple fields or to define a composite key. They enforce uniqueness, so they should be used only when necessary to eliminate duplicate detection or duplicate values. Going back to my chart, this is a sample of my charts for an accounts by industry. It will display an account in industry in different axes so that I can display or I can view the data that is within the system in a graphical way. And finally, the Data tab allows us to see the actual records that are part of the entity for a particular view. I can change the view, and based on the view I will see different fields or different columns for the data. When we look at option sets, we see a list of the standard option sets. These are the option sets that are available out of the box when we start creating a new entity. An example of an option set would be the type of activity. Many places in our environment we would want to create an activity record, and we can specify the type of activity, whether it's a fax, phone call, email, appointment, or so on. We can also create our own option sets, and they can be both as global option sets or local option sets. Local option sets are available only within the entity that they are created, while global option sets are available all across the organization. We're going to start now by creating a custom entity. As best practice, it is better to create a solution for the entity instead of using the out-of-the-box. The out-of-the-box solution just will add the records on top of the existing data. When we create a solution, we're going to specify that all the components that we are going to create will be stored in a single place, which allows us to easily deploy this solutions or the solution in higher environments. So I'll go ahead and start with a new solution. I'll call it Happy Today. I'll leave the same name, and I'll select a new publisher since I don't have one ready. I'll call it the App in a Day publisher, and I'll specify a prefix for the App in a Day as AIAD. That this means this prefix will be used for any component that I add to my solution. And I'll go ahead and create the solution. Once I've created the solution, I'll navigate to my solution, and in the navigation menu I have the option to create new or add existing components to my solution. This is very similar to my create option here, to my data option, but in here I would create directly within the entities, while in solutions, in order to add a new entity, I would have to go to the solution, select new, and select entity. You will notice that the prefix is set up to AIAD. We'll give a name to the new entity that we're creating, called device order. You'll see that the plural display name is automatically set for us, and the name is automatically set for us based on the display name, just removing any characters that are not valid. We'll change the display name to device name, and you will see that that changes also the name of the field. We're not gonna enter any new settings at this point, and we'll set up, or we'll leave the type of ownership and the entity type just the way it is. I'll go ahead and click create, and you will see that there's a message that says that this entity is being created in the background. While the entity is still being created, I can go ahead and add additional field. So we'll go ahead and start adding fields. The first field that we're going to create is a price. So I'm going to select price, and the data type is going to be currency. In my advanced options, I can enter a minimal value and a maximum value. And I don't want to have negative values, and I'm going to set it to 2 decimal places. You will notice that the field is highlighted, which means that this has not been saved yet. I'm still working on this particular entity or adding fields to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add additional fields. I just noticed that price, the maximum value is 5,000. And we can enter in the description, device, price. I'm going to add another field, requested by, and this type of field is going to be an email field. It's still a text data type, but the format is an email format. We're going to leave it as searchable and click done. Now we're going to add a few more fields. Request date, and we're going to set it as date only. We're going to add approver, which will also be an email field. We're going to add a field estimated ship date. And this will also be a date only field. And we're going to add one more field, approved date, and this will be a date field as well, date only field as well. The next one, we're going to create the approval option set. So we're going to create add field and name it as approval status. We're going to select option set for the data type. I'm going to click on option set and select new option set. Since this option set is only going to be used within the device order entity, I can set it to a local option set, which means this option set is not going to be available for any of the other entities. I'm going to set the value of approve and reject. Once I've done adding all of this field, I'm going to go ahead and click Save Entity. And we'll now add one more field, which is going to be a calculated field. Calculated fields are basically fields that automatically calculate, perform a calculation when the data is retrieved. So we're going to specify add a new field. We're going to call it department contribution. And we're going to select this as a currency field. In the calculator or rollup, we're going to set up as calculation. And we're going to set the field. Save the field. This will automatically pop up the calculated field editor. In this particular case, our conditional is optional. So we're going to add an action, and we're going to specify the price times 0.1. That will be my department contribution. We'll go ahead and click Save and Close, and then click Done. Notice that when we created the department contribution, it created two fields, the department contribution and the department contribution base. The base value is usually used for reporting when we want to have multiple currencies to allow for reporting on them in the base currency value. Next, we'll go ahead and create a business rule that will set the estimated delivery date to 14 days after the approval. So we're going to click on Add Business Rule. And we're going to give the business rule a name. Calculate estimated delivery date, calculate ship date, and a description of set the ship date to default to 14 days. We'll add a condition. We'll call the condition check ship date. The entity is device order, and we'll set it if the approval date contains data. Click on add and set field value, or we can go and drag it to set field value. Let me just rename the condition. And in here we're going to set the field estimated ship date to a formula approved date plus 14 days. We'll go ahead and click apply. I'll call this set estimated ship date and apply. I guess we didn't save the previous one. So if approval date contains data, I'll apply this as well. Once we're done, we'll go ahead and click validate. The validation has been completed successfully. We'll go ahead and save this. And activate. We'll confirm the activation, and we can close this tab, mark it as done, and we'll see that we have the business rule calculate ship date in activated status for the entity. We'll now go back to our Canvas app and set the CDS entity as a data source for the app. So we'll go back to apps, our device ordering app. We will select edit. Okay. We'll go ahead and click on view, select data sources. We'll see what we have in our app. And we'll notice that in our current environment we have device orders. I can click on device orders, and I will see that it adds this to my app. Let's go ahead and select a few items before we create our edit form. We'll go ahead and click on the Insert tab, select Form, and click on an Edit Form. As the data source for our edit form, we'll select Device Order, and we'll click on the Edit Field option. We're going to add the fields as mentioned in the screenshot that we have. So I'm going to remove the Created On field, and I'm going to add the Price field, the Approver field, the Requested By and Requested Date. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and I'm going to come back to this as it seems like I missed the comments field. So I went ahead and added the comments field, so I'm going to come back here and add the comments field after the approval. And let's just verify that we have the correct fields: device name, price, approver, comments, requested by, and requested date. Okay, go ahead and close this. And we'll now change the columns so that it displays everything in a single column. To create an instance of the form, when the form is loaded, we'll select a particular item and we'll change the property on visible we'll select the property of the form to on visible, new form, form 1. I'm going to go ahead and rename form 1 to device order form, and you will notice that the onVisible change form 1 to device order form. So if you make changes to your functions, when you rename fields, it will automatically rename them. You'll notice that by default, every field that we have has 4 attributes. It has a star visible attribute, it has an error message, a data card value, and a data card key. Each ones are the properties that make up each one of the fields, or the data cards. If we click on a card and select Advanced, we can change some of these properties by unlocking this field. So if I unlock the field properties, I can make change to any of the fields. So for the default property, this item.device name, I want to change it to compare list category manufacturer name plus title. For the price field, and since we want to display this, since we want to make this as read only, we're going to change the display mode to view only. That way no changes can be done to this. For the price, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select the data card value. We're going to unlock the properties. And we're going to select the default value to compare list gallery that selected that price, which will automatically display this same price, and we'll do the same thing for the display mode. Display mode.view. For the approval field, we're going to go and create a new connector or new data source. So I'll go back to insert, to view data sources, and we're going to choose the Office 365 users connector. And based on your environment, you might or you might not have a manager already. But we'll set the approver we'll set the default value to Office 365 users dot manager of the user dot email dot mail. And this will show me the manager is Power Manager at our environment. We'll configure the comments field to set the height to 80. For this, I do not need to go to the advanced settings. And in the hint text, we'll put enter justification. Next, requested by, we want to set the default value. To user email and we want to make this field read only. And finally, for the requested date, we want to set the default values today. If we want to hide this field from the user, we can go ahead and toggle the visibility of this field. So under properties, we can set visible to off. That will also give us a little bit more space. We're going to add a button to submit the form. So we'll go back to our tree view. We'll go to our main screen. We'll copy the compare button and we'll paste it on the compare screen. We'll rename it as submit form. Change the text to submit form. we'll set the enabled status to if not is blank. Compare list. We'll be able to submit the form. And on the submit form actions, on the onSelect property, we will change it from navigate to submit form and device order form. Let's go ahead and save this. And we can now go back to the main screen and we can test this out. So I already have a few items to compare. I click compare 3 items. I selected the first one. I have the approval. Specifying I need a new laptop because the old laptop is broken. Go ahead, click on submit form, and we're done. Could go ahead and close this tab. We already saved it. And we'll go back to our solutions, app in a day, device order, and if we click on data, we should see that I have an order for an Aspire U. Since we've not yet designed our model-driven app, we won't be able to see all the data, but once we design our model-driven app, we'll be able to see it. The final task is we're going to create a confirmation page after an order has been submitted. So I'll go back to my device ordering app. And we're going to create a new screen, a blank screen. I'll go ahead to the compare screen. I'll copy the header group, or I can copy it from I'll rename the screen. I'll insert the icon again to navigate back. And change the color to white. Select the action. Navigate to main screen with no transitions. Okay, and then on this screen I'll just enter a new label. Your device request has been successfully submitted. And we'll go ahead and thank you. I'll just go ahead and center it and increase the size a little bit. We're going to add a button here. It says OK. OK button, and when this button is clear, we're gonna clear the compare list, and we're gonna navigate to the main screen again, and set the transition to none. Okay. We're gonna also insert a form again, but this time it will be a display form. We're going to select the data source as the device orders. We're going to select the fields that we had previously, which are comments, approver, price, requested byte, and requested date. Price, comments, approval, requested byte, and requested date. This will be a single column. And we can go ahead and close this. can go ahead and save our changes. And publish our changes. We'll create one more order. Let's take an HP Spectre and a Surface Pro. We'll compare them. We'll take the Surface Pro. My old Surface is not working anymore. Go ahead and submit the form. And since we missed the navigation, I'll go back and fix that. 1 second. So we were missing on the unsuccess to navigate it to go to the confirmation string. So let's go back to the main screen. Run this application again. Compare the two items. Submit the form. And then this displays your request has been submitted. Press OK, and it will go back to the previous screen. I think this is the end of this module. So please go ahead, make sure if you have questions, submit them to us, and go ahead and continue with the next modules. Thank you.